Hey guys, welcome back to KT Confidential. This is episode number 2.
Today, we're talking about haunted houses.
Well, it's one of the topics, that's right. Last week...
I'm excited to talk about haunted houses.
You have a story? I've got a couple incidents.
I have an interesting story that I'll share.
Yeah, so last week, during episode 1, we posted on Facebook, and we had Andrew chime in with a question for us, and that was wanting to know if we have any stories about haunted houses. So I'll let you go first.
Well, this story is actually nothing real estate related. It's more personally related.
So is mine.
So about 6 years ago, Natalie decided she's going to treat me to a nice birthday vacation. 3 days in Collingwood at what was then called the Beeld House Inn.
Okay.
Never been to a bed and breakfast. I was quite excited. They had a chef on site, and in September there's not much to do in Collingwood, but we figured we would take it easy, spend a weekend in Collingwood. It was great. I was excited. So we pull up to the place. It's late at night. And ever seen the movie Amityville Horror?
I have not.
Well, the typical haunted house look. Like, this place looked flat out fucking haunted. Like, no question, it looked haunted. I just didn't think it was. Anyways, the first night we were there, it was all good. Second night, which was my birthday, we decided, okay, we'll have dinner at the inn. It was included, part of the package. It was fine. We went for a little walk downtown Collingwood. Came back. It was, about 2 o'clock in the morning. Needless to say, it was my birthday, and we were away. I was a little bit, I had a few beverages that night.
Probably an understatement.
Yeah, probably. And you got to remember, so Natalie and I had been dating then for maybe 10 months or so not even a year. And we approached the staircase to go up to the second floor where all the rooms are. And I just started crying, like flat out bawling like a schoolgirl.
You must have been really drunk.
Well, that's what she thought, right? Like, how fucking drunk is this guy? Like, he is retarded drunk.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I started feeling pressure, and I was drunk. So it was, to me, everything was a little bit probably elevated. But I started saying, this isn't good, this isn't good. And I didn't know what, but like I felt pressure. I didn't want to go up the stairs. I felt like somebody was watching me, and I felt scared. I felt like, I don't know, I can't even explain how I felt. So for the next couple of years, Natalie would tell this story and make fun of me and tell all her friends, I can't believe I stayed with this guy. Can you imagine? He was crying and on his birthday, drunk. Like, who is this idiot? Anyway, one night I'm into haunted stuff. I like, the paranormal activity shows and all of those things. So I watch them from time to time, and I started searching for haunted houses and haunted places in Ontario. And somehow when I was scrolling on the Google search, the Beeld House came up, and there's a TV show, a Canadian TV show. I don't know if it ever got aired on a major publication of any kind, but they actually did an episode at the Beeld House because of all the complaints from owners, staff, and previous visitors that the place is in fact haunted. And one of the original owners was a was a brain surgeon and did a lot of operations in the basement of this house.
Sounds like a movie.
It totally does. In fact, there were video of body parts being like kept in jars in formaldehyde. That's what he used to do, like keep body parts throughout the house. Anyway, so the place is haunted, and everything that I was experiencing, like that pressure and started crying like a schoolgirl going up the stairs, was exactly what the I don't know what they're called, not psychics, but paranormal experts, exactly the same thing that they felt going up the stairs. So that was my redemption. I looked at Natalie and I said, see, I wasn't just drunk.
So what was it called?
The Beeld House.
Beeld House.
So the Beeld House actually is, it's more than, I don't know, it was built in the 1800s, and it was the original home for, I think, the first mayor of Collingwood. It no longer is an operating business. It's just there. I think developers want to try and turn it into a condo complex or something, but because of its heritage to the town, I don't think anything will ever become of it. But
so if anyone's listening and they're on their maybe 6th or 7th date and they really want to lock in their relationship with their significant other, they should go to the Beeld House.
Go to a haunted house.
Yeah.
What's your?
So I had two.
That wasn't very exciting, but
it's pretty exciting just to hear that you cried like a baby.
I was totally crying like a baby, and I never experienced anything like that, like the pressure and I didn't know what was going on. She clearly didn't know.
It's a shame she wasn't recording it.
I know that would have been. Yeah. That would have been good to look back at. So what?
So when I was younger, I don't know how old I was. I was probably in my late teens, I suspect. I used to enjoy going to abandoned properties with a handful of my friends. So there were two that were quite memorable. One, which was really fun. It was the dead of winter, it was late at night, and somebody told us about the Whitby Psych Ward. So it's a huge facility made up of multiple buildings, and it had been abandoned, I imagine, for years. So that was fun. So we went there, found an open window, we were able to sneak in. They had these underground, like narrow passageways connecting all the buildings, and it was in rough shape. Like most of the buildings were flooded, and because it was winter, they were frozen. So you know there was like 6 to 12 inches of ice in most hallways, and when there's graffiti everywhere, and you hear noises and shit, so it's kind of creepy. And I remember walking down one hallway, and I didn't experience anything, but it's just creepy in itself. But there was like one of those, like an old wheelchair with straps on the handlebars, frozen to the floor, and it just looked creepy, just sitting there in the middle of the hallway. So that was fun. That was one of the better places I went to. The other place we went to, there was an abandoned house off of one of the side roads in Mississauga, and we went in there, and it was a creepy one. We heard a lot of noises like chanting and strange sounds.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, it was really creepy, and things that we couldn't explain, and everybody heard them, so it was not like it was just one person going crazy. But in that one, on the second floor, you could access the attic. So it had a fixed stairwell that walked up to the attic, and there was a doorway at the bottom of the stairs. So I decided to go up, so I opened the door. And again, it's nighttime, so it's dark. I have a little flashlight. I walk up the stairs, and my fucking friends behind me, don't they lock the door on me? So they slam the door shut and lock it. I run back down the stairs. I'm trying to kick the door down because it was scary. I've never been that scared in my life. I had no legitimate reason to be scared, but it was freaky.
Yeah, I'd be scared.
Yeah. So that was it for me. So
You ever heard of the ghost walks of Hamilton or the ghost walks in Niagara?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do one of those. Should plan like a team outing. And
that's a good idea. We've never had to sell a haunted house, though.
if anybody listening has done any of the ghost walks, the one in Hamilton or Niagara, we'd love to hear the feedback on it.
I wonder if how many people would completely rule out buying a house if there was a history of it being haunted.
So I'll tell you a quick story. Well, let me ask you a question. When you're out showing a property, when you're out showing somebody a home, a buyer, a home,
Mm-hmm.
when you're at the bedroom level, like let's say it's a 2-story home and you go up to the second story, do you go in, you yourself, do you go in every bedroom?
Yeah, of course. I go in, I try to turn all the lights on. And I'm always the last to leave. I turn the lights on for them, and I turn the lights off as we're leaving.
So I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm showing a buyer a property, I want to know everything about the house, whether they're interested in it. We might have another client that's interested, so it's good to know everything about the property. I open closets. I'm looking for leaks in the ceiling, things like that. So I always go into every single bedroom, every room in the home. I don't think I've ever told you this story. So there's a property here in Milton on Thompson Road. This was now maybe 3-4 years ago. And I had a first-time buyer as a client, really nice guy that I'd been showing him homes for maybe, 2 or 3 weeks. And he sends me a late night text message and says, hey, what about this house on, it wasn't on Thompson, it was on, maybe on Laurier or, I can't remember now. Thompson and Yates, would that make sense? Yeah.
I think I know the house you're talking about.
So anyways, he sends me, you tell me if this is the same house. He sends me the text message, can we see this property? And you got to remember, it's like midnight. Sends me the text message. I said, yeah, okay, when do you want to see it? Says, tomorrow morning, I'm free. So first thing in the morning, I call the brokerage, book it, got a confirmation right away, go out to see the house. Now, usually, I do my due diligence on the property. I even print out a copy of the MLS listing for myself to make sure I haven't missed any inclusions, exclusions, just so I have all the details right there, or I email myself a copy of it, whatever, right? I didn't do that with this particular property because of the quick turnaround, and I'd been working with them for a few weeks, and for whatever reason I didn't do it. So we show up to the house, and I'm looking at the house. We start walking through the house, and it shows really well. We get to the kitchen, and there's a walkout to the backyard. And the homeowner's there. We didn't know. Like, I knocked and everything. The homeowner's there. She's sitting outside. It was middle of summer, and she's having a coffee and reading a book, sitting on the like a picnic table. I said, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't know you're home. She said, oh, that's no problem. I knew about your appointment. I just figured I wouldn't stay in the house and I'd let you guys take the tour. I said, oh, great. Thank you very much. So at that point, we did a little walk in the backyard just to check out the backyard and have a chat with her. And I commented about the table that she was sitting at. And I said, wow, this table is beautiful. And she says, yeah, he built it. And I didn't think about it. You could tell the way she answered. It was a touchy subject. And anyways, I didn't know what she meant by that. We went on to see the rest of the house. We get upstairs, and my client is walking into the bedrooms, and I followed him into the master bedroom. I followed him into the third bedroom, And then the second bedroom, for whatever reason, I did not go in. I just didn't go in. I always go in. I don't know why I didn't go in. And I just had this weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. So I said, take your time and I'll meet you downstairs. I'll just let her know that we're wrapping up. Anyways, so we leave the house and he says, I like it. I said, great. I said, let me do some homework on the property. I think it's priced extremely well, like really low. If everything checks out, we'll put an offer in. Anyways, Steve, do you have to use the bathroom?
Yes. Yeah.
So for those listening, the bathroom is approximately 6 feet from where Adrian and I are sitting.
If you listen closely.
If you listen closely, it's not a leak in the ceiling. Anyway, so I went back and I did the research on the property. And as I'm doing it, he texts me a link. So I open up the link and it's an article from, I believe it was the Milton Canadian Champion. Her husband that built that table committed, it was a murder-suicide in the house.
Yeah. That is the house I was thinking.
Yeah. Murdered his son in his son's bedroom and then committed suicide himself.
Yeah, it's a terrible story.
Yeah. Needless to say, when there's a stigma attached to the property, if it's a murder or suicide home, I kind of steer away from them now.
Well, and that one was on the market for a while, so that answers the question as to how many people would avoid it, and obviously the number's high. And the price is going to be significantly lower. But that's a terrible story. I remember when that happened.
I wonder who actually bought that house. Like, how could you buy a house
I wouldn't
like
be
that?
surprised if they had no idea.
Well, they must have a really bad realtor then. But, like, who would buy a house? Would you buy a house like that?
No, not a chance. No.
Like, even if it was half of the market value, I couldn't see myself purchasing a home where something like that had happened.
No, because it's stuck with it forever.
What about natural death?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because that happens all the time, and that doesn't have to be disclosed.
No, you have. I've had some people ask about it. They ask whether or not anyone has died in the house. You don't have to disclose that, and I wouldn't either, unless it was, murder or suicide.
Which you have to disclose.
Yes.
It's a stigma to the property.
Yeah, it's stuck with it. I mean, indefinitely, really.
Yeah.
So.
Any other freaky things happen to you, or anything that you've seen in homes while you're out there?
No, I used to have an old neighbor, a next door neighbor, and he was a bit different. Really nice guy, got along really well, but he really believed in all of that stuff, and to the point where he believed that he had some sort of deeper connection with the dead, and he had some.
Did he
weird
ever prove
stories. No, but he was a bit odd on that end of the spectrum. So I believe him.
I went. Actually, I think Christina may have commented on this on our Instagram page. She, when I was out showing them homes, the Jamaquio family, they've become great clients of ours. They on the first purchase, when we helped them buy their home on Mohawk, we were out looking at homes and mostly rural. A little bit out there, kind of farmlandish areas. And you come across some really odd homes. And sometimes you see odd things. Sometimes you things that make your head scratch. Anyways, we went to this one house And it was winter. The heat wasn't on. It was cold in there. I don't know if somebody was living in the property or not, but the house looked okay until we got to the basement. And the basement, it was, that smell you get in a damp basement, like an old damp basement. It had that kind of mustiness. And there was definitely some weird shit happening down there, but there was like a old hospital bed, like from an insane asylum kind of hospital bed.
Mm-hmm. It's like what I saw at the Whitby Psych Ward, probably. Things like that.
Just in the middle of this empty basement, and I think there was like a briefcase or something there with, I don't know what was in it, and that's all that was in the basement. And they liked the house until they saw the basement. Totally freaked them right out. Yeah. She'll probably remember more about it than I did, but
I've always been a bit of a wuss when it comes to that stuff. Like, for some reason, I will torture myself and I want to see horror movies and scary things, but it just kills me. I can't sleep. And I'm always, like, at the end of the day, I'm always home late and usually the last one to go to bed. So I'll go down, I let Carter out to do his thing, come back in, shut the lights off, and 99% of the time I'll run up the stairs instead of walking because I feel like somebody's going to grab my feet. I don't know why. I just always had that sensation. And it's bad as a real estate agent because I'm always the last one out of the house. So especially if it's the last house we're looking at, we'll spend some time maybe before we leave talking about it and the other homes we've seen. I'll say goodbye and tell them I'm going to close up and lock the door behind you, so I'll talk to you later. So they leave. And I remember once there was beautiful, it was like a $2.5 million home in Burlington, and it was just stunning, but it was vacant, so nobody was living there. And it was dark, and the house was kind of secluded, lots of trees around it. So they left, and I had to walk through the house shutting off all the lights. And I just always have that weird sensation that I just need to move really quick because if I'm not, somebody's going to grab me.
Well, now we know how to play a trick on
Oh, don't you dare. Scare the shit out of me.
So the other thing we wanted to talk about today.
I think we should save it. It's a long conversation.
So we'll save it for the next podcast?
I think it's a good idea.
Episode 3?
Yeah.
So in episode 3, we are going to talk about how you can cut back your cost of everyday living, where to cut back costs and your everyday spending in order to A, pay down your home quicker, or B, upgrade your home, or C,
just
purchase
save
your
some
first
fucking
home.
money.
Yeah, well, there's the podcast. We're going to talk about how to, quote unquote, save some fucking money.